The MIW Disruptive podcast is sponsored by Mentorch. Mentorch is a social development network for mentorship. Go to mentorch.app to seek knowledge and leave a legacy.
Welcome to the Disruptive podcast by Minority Innovation Weekend. Minority Innovation Weekend is a weekend summit dedicated to aiding minority innovators launch tech-focused startups, exploring emerging technologies, and showcasing tech startups that have a minority founder or co-founder. During each episode, we will discuss innovation, news about tech startup, as well as the startup ecosystem, and interview people of color throughout the startup ecosystem.
Welcome, everyone, to the Minority Innovation Weekend Disruptive podcast. Today, we have Michael Ogunsanya. He's the CEO and co-founder of MindStand, founded here in Baltimore. It's a platform to solve online harassment globally. Hello, Michael. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Sir Walter. It's a lovely Friday. I'm excited to get the week.
It is. It's a nice Friday. Hey, are you here? Are you from Baltimore?
Yeah, so interesting story. Grew up in Prince George's County. Originally, before that, New Jersey. Came to Prince George's County, elementary school, middle school, high school, and then came to UMBC in my college experience, and I've just stayed in the area ever since.
That's excellent. I came here maybe, I guess this is year 3 for me. So I'm not from here originally. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. So learn more about you and MindStand. Could you tell us where the name of MindStand, or where's it originate from?
Yeah, it's just a great story. When you think of MindStand, we were so focused between me and our 2 other co-founders. 2 of them are very technical. I'm like a business guy, so I'm just learning a couple things. But what I did understand is just when you're coding and when you're programming, this idea of sending commands, sending functions, executing on certain scripts. So what we were thinking is, how can we create a powerful name to represent everyone in the room while keeping it very technical? So what we figured is, we're going to stand for the minds of people. So it's a function.
I like it. What made you start the MindStand product?
It's so interesting how we came to it. There's 2 stories. Like I mentioned, I have 2 other co-founders, Eric Solander, our CTO, and Nikita Wooten, our chief data scientist. And I met Eric about 2 years ago. We were in an entrepreneurship class. It was almost a boot camp. You know, they sit you down and they say, by the end of this class, you're going to have the business model canvas, the value proposition, everything you need to start a full company. So literally that day, we were meeting other entrepreneurs in the class, and I saw this one kid with huge laptop and a big hoodie, and I figured, this kid could be special. So 3 weeks into it, we're working on an entirely different project, laser tag. And he tells me, hey, towards the end of the class, hey, Michael, I think I have an idea that might be a bit more productive almost. We were thinking laser tag, have fun, maybe link this to Hasbro. But what he told me about was a hackathon idea that him and Nikita were working on before. It was a tool to identify hate speech from kids so that parents can know if their children are being bullied online or are bullying other people. So I heard that. I heard machine learning. I heard hate speech. I said, let's get it done. So that summer, we spent a lot of time working on the idea. And what we thought about the most is impact. How can we tell the right story to solve this problem? And when we started from a technical side, we saw that Facebook, Twitter, and you're seeing it now currently with the congressional hearings, these large social media platforms make it very difficult for third-party users to integrate and consume data, especially if you're consuming data to be more interactive with the end user. So we were caught in a stump. This was 2 months into it, and we were thinking, what should we do? And it never hit me until that moment, an experience that I had a year before that incident. So in 2017, I was here in Baltimore. I was an engineer. I was an intern at a large engineering firm, 30 minutes north of the city. And every day I was excited to be there. I had my button-up shirt on. I had my glasses. I'm not wearing it now, Sir Walter, but you can imagine. And 3 weeks into the program, similarly, I came in with a polo shirt and I wasn't wearing my glasses. And I remember the day so clearly. I remember sitting down at my desk and my supervisor, he came up to me. He said, "Hey, Michael, I almost didn't recognize you with the change in attire. I thought you were like a thug or something." And yeah, so you have an expression. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
That's horrible, man. You're an intern. You want to set the best impression of yourself. Hopefully, it turns into a job opportunity. I mean, that's life changing. To hear about.
Yeah, and I was just in that space. You can imagine I'm just that kid, and I felt so isolated. So all I could think about is what should I do? I went home that night and I tried to search up, HR. I've never heard of it before, but what happens when something like this happens? And what I realized is that there's two options, Sir Walter. One is conflict mediation, which is the HR manager putting me and my supervisor in a room and trying to talk it through. But you can imagine, as a 17-year-old underrepresented minority, me being put in that place is a little uncomfortable. It feels a little powerless. And then the second option is a pipeline issue. If I really move forward with this issue, if I don't like the current methods of interaction, then how many interns like me will end up at that firm the next year? So, Sir Walter, I really didn't say anything. And it really didn't hit me until we were almost striking out with the current project that we had, the prototype to identify hate speech for kids. And I just remember that day we were all around a whiteboard and I said, "Hey, why don't we implement this within companies to know if someone's being bullied or someone's bullying someone internally?" So from then on, we started reaching out to clinical psychologists. We found some great business partners, and we're actively reaching out in the HR and diversity and inclusion community to find organizations, to find leaders that are focused on how can we, especially while social distancing, create a healthy and equitable online workspace. So MindStand is an AI platform that identifies implicit bias, employee engagement, and culture fit within companies' internal communications.
Oh, that's interesting. So from a user perspective, say I'm an employee of a company, let's say engineer for simplicity. How does it affect me as an employee?
Yeah. What MindStand AI does is gives you a platform, gives you an equitable platform for leaders in the company to understand how you're communicating and whether or not there's ways to help you or ways to highlight the great work that you're doing. So a great thing that we do is we integrate within the Slack and we do a capacity assessment of the whole company. It's kind of a historical view. So we can understand how well people engage on a regular basis, understand if, understand the difference between F you and I effing love you, knowing them as jokes, really understanding again, is certain jokes fine in a construction company that isn't fine in a law firm. We spend a lot of time and we've dedicated our machine learning engineers to really finding that balance so that from then on, we can understand what are some outliers within your organization. So by and large, you know the culture of your company. You've been there for 5-10 years. You will not have to worry about MindStand identifying a joke you made that is lighthearted. We're really focused on how can we understand where are some lapses in terms of employee engagement, or are some lapses in terms of inclusive conversations, so that MindStand can let the HR manager know, hey, I think this might be something you should look at, or hey, this might be for someone that if you want to create an employee initiative program, this person has the most amount of engagement within the company. This person's consistently thanking people and asking people to get more involved. So why don't you look at this person when it's time to make more promotions instead of doing outside hiring? So it's really a tool that's trying to sit within your company to help you create overall better hiring, better people management, and just a better organization altogether.
Oh, that's awesome. So is it only text-based, or can it recognize speech? Because some of the collaboration tools I'm using right now, they allow you to speak within them, not just send text.
Definitely. And that's really in our product roadmap. How over the next 3 years, we can have a tool like that. Like you said, especially living in Maryland, where government funding is an opportunity, just the ability to identify emotional distress on real conversations is important. So we understand that that's an opportunity for us, but right now we're really focused on getting really great within our textual analytics and expanding from there.
Are you still currently a student at Johns Hopkins?
I'm a student at UMBC.
UMBC, okay. it looks like you were involved with, is this correct? University Social Innovation Lab. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, so Johns Hopkins Social Innovation Lab.
Okay. What was it like to work with that program?
Man, it was amazing. There were some amazing, just imagine, it almost felt like the X-Men in that first day. Social Innovation Lab was hyper focused on finding innovators with a social impact within the Baltimore space. From their initial, they spent a lot of time. They're very dedicated in bringing applicants to their building, touring their facilities, and walking them through what it means to be a part of that lab. Luckily, we were able to connect with Alex Ream, who's the past director, and tell him about MindStand. When we applied and did an interview, he saw a clear social impact from MindStand. But the overall Social Innovation Lab, especially this cohort, was special. Comparity, collectively, Mondo. There's so many great companies that came through. So many innovators specifically within Baltimore, whether it's helping using water to fight chronic diseases down to connecting beekeepers with bees in the local area. Just really glad to say that Social Innovation Lab helped MindStand realize the real impact we can have. I highly suggest anyone listening to this to apply. I believe there are applications open and closed this fall with plans of opening next year. Again, it's focused on customer discovery. How can you as an entrepreneur get a validated sense of what your customer wants? They walk you through the whole process. They require you 20 interviews. They require 40 at the end if you want to win the cohort prize. But really, again, trying to figure out how you as an entrepreneur can be solving the most clear pain point for your end users. So it was a 6 week. It was more or less a 6-month program. Just great people, a great environment. And one thing we realized actually while doing some interviews in Social Innovation Lab was that MindStand is great for us to be able to identify negative behaviors. These are some signs of something that's bad in your company. So here, from a liability standpoint, take care of this. But when we sat down with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners in the Baltimore area, we noticed sometimes people just want to see what's going on well in the company. What are some indications of positivity within your company? Whether it's certain positive remarks, people are starting conversations with a more positive tone, compliments. So that wouldn't have happened without the Johns Hopkins Social Innovation Lab. So I highly suggest every entrepreneur, especially those in social enterprise spaces, those working on nonprofits, to look at Social Innovation Lab and apply to it.
It's interesting. Is the cohort just 1 year, or is it like a multi-year?
Yeah, so it's 1 year. But the special thing is it's 1 year. You specifically don't have to be a Hopkins alum, but when you leave that program, you're a part of the Hopkins network. So they're very clear in understanding just Johns Hopkins, the opportunities they have. It's a 1-year program where you sit down, understand what's going on, specifically within JHTV and your community, and you leave being a member of the Johns Hopkins Technology Venture staff, if not community.
Wow. That's great. As far as your product, it sounds like you target enterprise customers. Is that right?
Yeah, we're very focused on organizations that are focused on revenue, or are focused on growing and hiring.
So how do you go about discovering those customers?
Yeah, and I feel like I can offer a lot of advice there. I'm just still learning. We've confirmed a couple pilots, but we're still going. It's so important in B2B and enterprise sales to be yourself. You can read books, you can learn the sales strategies, but at the end of the day, to really confirm an enterprise client, you need someone in that company that believes in you and your mission. So since MindStands started in 2018, I've been trying to go to as many as possible networking sessions. Before COVID, they were all in person. So, I had my business cards ready to go, but now using LinkedIn, using consistent kind of networking opportunities through Zoom or breakout sessions to connect. So I found the best thing you can do in enterprise sales is to create a community of people that believe in you. And in turn, they'll believe in the product and what you're doing as a result.
Interesting. Hopefully one day I'll get an enterprise product out that that I get to try to sell or something. So I guess what phase of the business are you in? you mentioned that you started developing the product originally like 2018. I guess, what phase would you say you're in right now?
Yeah. So we're in this place where we're looking at a private beta. We're able to do a soft launch, confirm some pilots, but now we really want to sit down with HR managers, sit down with CEOs that, want to know a bit more about social equity in their company. They want to know a bit more about how remote work has impacted productivity within their employees. So we're sitting down directly with CEOs and business owners, telling them that we can integrate this tool, one, to identify any potentially negative behavior, two, to understand any positivity metrics to keep your company going, and three, implementing personalized trainings or intervention strategies so that once MindStand leaves after that 6 months, you have all the tools necessary to keep impacting your business. So we're so focused right now on creating a long-lasting, if not case study, on how MindStand can work. That will really empower us so that we can move towards the fundraising goal we have at the beginning of next year.
Wow. It's almost like it's a prevention tool. Would you say that? Or is that oversimplification?
I see it as not only a prevention tool, Sir Walter, I see it as a proactive tool. There's companies where I know we've all done this. You look at this company, you're like, well, is this a good fit for me? Let me check Indeed. Let me check Glassdoor. Let me check Monster. And I can tell you, those companies look at those too. So when there's a company that's had, a bunch of 3-star reviews, all they're thinking about is what could we have done to prevent that issue. So by and large, MindStand's a tool to know exactly for employees that feel comfortable using these online platforms to talk about the business, what are some indications of how they feel when they're in the business using their internal online platforms. So it's a very good way, a very clear way to just know what's going on. Two, it's a great way, for companies that have been sued or had EEOC charges filed against them. This is a way to say that we are moving in the right direction. Just with, again, the term D&I, I feel like will be debunked in 10 years because the world will be inclusive. The world will be diverse. So just aligning yourself with the goals that you want to see in terms of creating a long-standing business, MindStand is moving towards that front. So again, if you're worried about the next lawsuit, get MindStand. If you're worried that you have the right people strategy for 2022, get MindStand. And that, our tool again, is a way to be a bit more proactive in accomplishing those goals.
That's interesting. What advice do you have for someone or would-be social entrepreneurs looking to start their own venture?
Yeah, community. Just the term social is so involved with the term community. As an entrepreneur, period, I feel like being able to speak with other people. I'll tell you, I have some great mentors, Sir Walter. And when I feel like this isn't going well, when I feel like there's 50 other things I can do, luckily I have, a call scheduled every month with the VP of M&A at a company. And what she tells me is, I'm so excited to hear what you're doing. What you're doing is inspiring me. So I feel like as a social entrepreneur, be focused on how, one, you can get the mentoring to succeed, and two, be focused on how you're helping people. Because when you stand up there to pitch for money, when you're doing a fundraising event, the only thing that people will leave that room with, will leave that Zoom with, was a story that you told. So be that person that can create great stories, create a great community to see yourself succeed.
So last year, you participated in the 2019 Minority Innovation Weekend pitch competition. What was that experience like for you? And was that your first pitch competition, or maybe you had more in 2019 up to that point?
Yeah, so cool enough. So the Minority Innovation Weekend was in October 2019. In, I believe, March that year, I was able to pitch for the National Society of Black Engineers at their national conference. And I was able to place first. So it was a great opportunity to just pitch again. I haven't had that many opportunities beforehand. But man, MIW had some amazing venture analysis in that room, from Mac down to Calvin, down to Jeffrey. It was, it was awesome. And cool enough, you mentioned that I was able to pitch, and that was great. Also, I hosted a session on validating your idea. And as I was handing out the last papers, the last worksheets to the attendees of my workshop, someone taps me on the arm and he has like a mic in. So I'm thinking this is CIA. And he says, hey, you got to pitch. Your pitch is already up. People are waiting for you. So I'm like, whew. All right, from teaching to pitching, let's get it done. So I walked into that room. My mom was able to come in too, which was kind of cool. She's always supportive. She was not letting them not let her be in that room, but just being able to, as an entrepreneur, being able to just stop, and be able to say what you're doing, what you did, and where you're going, especially in that moment, is so important. So I really appreciate Minority Innovation Weekend. It gave me the chance to really reflect on what we've done so far with MindStand, pitch what we've done, and hear from some of the best VCs, not only in Maryland, but around the country, but based in Maryland, to hear what they have to say, feedback on our startup and ways we can grow. So it was just such a great opportunity. It's such a great opportunity. I really appreciate that. And I encourage every entrepreneur to reach out, to apply to pitch, to have that chance to have people review your work and, to see yourself succeed around people that want to see you succeed.
So this year, Minority Innovation Weekend has gone virtual. Do you have any advice for other people that may be pitching this year?
Yeah, I want to make sure I give some good advice.
Well, it could be if they were pitching in person, but it's just general advice for people that may be pitching their idea or their business.
Yeah, I can tell you, Sir Walter, the story I mentioned about my supervisor calling me a thug, I would always put that at the end of all of our pitches. Up until like literally a week ago, someone said, you're crazy not to do this. Again, the advice I heard, people leave pitches with the stories that the entrepreneurs say, not your go-to-market strategy, not your LTV or customer acquisition costs. So for entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs that are worried that they can tell the right story while not being in front of people, worried that, maybe they won't have the same energy or people won't come up with it, think about a story. Think about a story of your customer. Think about a story that you've experienced that makes people understand that you're the right person to really see your venture succeed.
Since MindStands has started, have you always been the CEO?
Yes.
Okay. How did you go about building your team? You mentioned your chief data scientist and your CTO. I'm sure there's other players at work here as well.
Definitely. So it's me and 2 other co-founders. So 3 co-founders total. What we have are 7 other part-time people, whether they're engineers, designers, marketers, who have committed to MindStand, committed to these weekly meetings, committed to times to really sit down and work through how to see MindStand grow. So it's just an honor really to have people that trust our vision, that trust what we're doing, to contribute on a consistent basis. The word responsibility. As a CEO, you just have to be responsible, knowing that, if things go well, you have to, chop that win up, congratulate people on your team, and be focused on how can you grow on that. When things don't go well, being responsible, taking accountability for your actions, making sure people feel comfortable in their own skin around the workspace. There's so many nuanced things as a CEO that to learn or to pick up on, that the best thing you can do is to better yourself. Once I started with MindStand, I had about 10 books, from The Great CEO Within, Deep Work, Crossing the Chasm. So many books that helped me understand that, again, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So as a CEO, I highly encourage people to either watch podcasts on relevant material in your market or for your venture. Read books, especially books that talk about how to be an effective leader. There's so many nuanced things, like I mentioned. So ways that you can build yourself up to have that level of responsibility in your work will give you an innate sense of confidence that you never know until someone tells you about.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. Since a lot of organizations have shifted to working from home or attending online classes due to COVID-19, has this increased your awareness, not your awareness, but a general awareness of your product or brand?
Yeah, Sir Walter, it's so interesting. Just as a country, we've done a great job, or at least industries, based on what I've seen, have done a great job, especially in the engineering space, of trying to transition into a more remote space. Microsoft Teams, industries by and large, and companies similar to MindStands understand that there's a need now for one, remote tools so that you can communicate efficiently, and two, productivity tools to know that, again, are you spending and allocating the right amount of money towards working from home tools? So definitely, MindStands, it's a different story. I noticed I feel like the same people I would have pitched to 2 years ago would have said Slack. I mean, maybe two people use it, but kind of email integration. Why is it, before COVID? So now, everyone knows what Slack is, Microsoft Teams. So now it's a similar story that I'm sharing with other people about MindStand. And with universities, it's going to be an uphill battle, definitely this semester. Just understanding whether you can successfully social distance at a university, at a dormitory, at a lecture hall. But by and large, I see when I speak with leaders in education, they're focused on how can they create a safe environment for their community. So as they figure out how to do it from a physical and health-wise, they're going to think more about mental health and diagnosing, and then just understand if there's any negativity going on. So, and I'd love to branch on that. Like what you spoke about is how COVID has impacted kind of the work from home, the distance learning area. The current conversations around social equity. I mean, the unfortunate murders of Breonna Taylor, Elijah McClain, George Floyd have pushed, I've seen so many leaders towards asking themselves, am I just checking off a box when it comes to diversity and inclusion? Am I really sitting down with people who are diverse and letting them have time to grieve, letting them have time to be heard? So I've definitely seen CEOs ask that question. Are we really, putting either our money where our mouth is? Are we really putting time towards creating an equitable platform for other people in our company? So all of those kind of factors have empowered MindStand to be able to produce thought leadership. This last, about 2 weeks ago, we posted a webinar just talking about the future of work, how people are going to feel comfortable in their own skin while talking over Zoom. We have some more plans about people operations, but by and large, COVID and the current conversations on social equity have empowered me and our team to feel like we have a real purpose in this world.
Wow. So sometimes I ask people, what's their next step? You've already mentioned some things on your roadmap, probably voice integration. I guess hate messages can be transmitted through video. Is that pictures and images? Is that a potential feature that you might add?
It's so interesting. So there's this bustling kind of sector of science around natural language processing, around the emoji analysis. So yeah, we're just excited. We have some great machine learning engineers, honestly scientists, the way I see it, the way they approach their craft, just thinking more about how can we create groundbreaking technology to bring people together. So we're definitely, as papers come out, as new data sets get created, we're always focused on how can we apply those to a more commercial, a more usable way for people to be better leaders.
That is great. Okay, double muted myself. So, how can people reach out to you, Michael, in MindStand?
MindStand.com, MindStand.com. We'll give you a great space to see what we do, our team, our superpowers on each person on our team, as well as blog posts. We're really focused on how can we create a community around people who want to know a bit more about how they can be better leaders. Creating a community around people who, unfortunately have experienced negative instances of harassment or just negative culture and want to learn how to be better. So checking us out on mindstand.com. Again, any person in HR, any and every person in HR, any and every person who's a CEO or trying to run a business and seeing hiring and seeing growth, I suggest reaching out to me. My email is michael@mindstand.com. Twitter is MindStandT. Same with our Instagram. We are really looking for ways that we can create pathways, especially in Baltimore, towards creating a more equitable, safe, and inclusive workspace.
Michael, I want to say thank you for agreeing to come on our podcast, and it was awesome to know that you won our pitch competition. So it goes to show that you could go places with these pitch competitions, and seemed like you've expanded from October of last year to this year. So that's good to hear that you're still growing and still out there grinding, making it happen.
Absolutely, and I would have done this in a heartbeat for Minority Innovation Weekend. Just the platform you've created, the amount of time and just effort, your intentions will create more success for minority entrepreneurs and people that want to help.
That wraps up this episode of the Disruptive Podcast by Minority Innovation Weekend. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe. Check us out online at www.minorityinnovationweekend.org and connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. MIW 2020 is coming up on Saturday, October 3rd to the 4th, so head on over to www.minorityinnovationweekend.org and register for MIW 2020 today.